In this video, I'm gonna explain to you the exact steps that we took to take Dolman Law Group to rank #1 nationwide for over thousands of terms for car accident lawyer, the most difficult term in the nation, with a unique 4-step process. Hi, my name is Chris Dreyer. I'm the CEO and founder of Rankings.io, where we help elite personal injury attorneys dominate first page rankings. And we work with hundreds of law firms all across the country to help them dominate their respective markets. If you just want to jump right ahead and skip to the head of the line, you don't really care about the case study and you want the experts to do it the right way, the easiest thing for you to do is just go to our website, Rankings.io, hit the contact button, and then what's gonna happen, our director of strategy is gonna reach out to set up a free consultation. We're gonna discuss your goals and your objectives and what we can do to help you obtain them. If you wanna receive more cutting edge SEO strategies, the easiest thing to do is to hit the subscribe button below, or if you wanna connect with me directly, just connect with me on LinkedIn and I'm gonna put a link to the URL to my personal profile below. In a moment, we're gonna talk about our 4-step process, specifically how we got Dolman Law Group to rank #1 for car accident lawyer, but let's talk about why. So the first reason is if you start to rank nationwide and you rank in the top spot, you're perceived as the best. Because consumers who don't know you, they automatically trust the individuals at the top. We'll talk about this more, but the type of framework we use, it incorporated other attorneys into the content. So by being listed among these other attorneys, we're perceived as an expert as well. The second thing that it brings is a ton of traffic. When you rank for a phrase that's nationwide, it drives a ton of traffic to your website, which leads to many conversion opportunities, many leads and new cases. But the other thing that it does that's not talked about as much is when you rank nationwide for a phrase like this, it naturally attracts inbound links to the listing. Because that's when people make a search and they're gonna source an article, they'll link to the top spot. So it makes it even more difficult for someone in the second or bottom positions or second page to try to overcome you because you're in that top spot, you're solidifying your position. And ultimately, the main reason, of course, is when you rank for a keyword segment like car accident lawyer that incorporates thousands of phrases, it lends itself to a tremendous amount of case revenue, referral opportunities, and then also the traffic itself and the links that it creates will actually help your other pages rank as well. So it makes it easier to rank other practice area pages because of your natural inbound link profile that you've acquired. Step 1 to ranking for a nationwide term like car accident lawyer begins with analysis. So what's analysis entail? The first thing that you have to do is do a competitor analysis to see what other law firms are doing to achieve those top results. You have to look at the framework of how that content is positioned, if it's written in the first person, how the flow of that content is written, and just analyze the exact structure of the content. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to make sure that you're targeting the correct keywords. There are thousands of keywords for these nationwide terms, so it's important to group them into segments, into bottom of the funnel, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel to create your flow. And that's the first step, is to do a competitor analysis, to do an overall analysis of your competition.
What are the top 5, 10 sites doing that I'm not doing? Where are they getting links from that I'm not getting links from? That's what Chris' team will do for you.
So when we evaluated our competitors and their content, the things that we were looking at was how it was structured. If it was written in the first person, we were also looking to see if it was very similar to just common practice area pages. If they were gonna start with the steps to take after a car accident, then the statistics, then the types of injuries. That's a pretty common format. A lot of these individuals will just target what I call LSI keywords. If you type car accident lawyer into Google, it'll say, here's what people also searched. And that's how many SEO agencies like to structure their content, because they know those keywords are being typed in. However, here's the thing. If you have content that answers something different, when a consumer is searching, they have an additional reason to search out your content, because if that answer is provided by everyone else, then they can go to anyone to get that answer. But if you have a unique concept or a unique way of answering their intent, then you have the best opportunity to stand out. So some of the examples of long tail keywords would be, what are the steps I need to take after a car accident? What's the type of automobile injuries? What should I do to get maximum value for my case? It could be any long tail query that's very specific that answers, you already know the intent of that searcher. So a lot of times these need to be in your H2s, your subheaders, so that they can navigate from section to section. That's how you can keep a user transitioned throughout the page. But a lot of times they need information from an expert, and if one individual is answering all those answers, then they only get one opinion. So that's why it's important to incorporate multiple experts on a page when it's a very important life decision that they're making. When you're analyzing the keywords that you want to incorporate into your content, it's really important that you use the right tools. And the two main tools that we use are Ahrefs and SEMrush, because they give a deep level of analysis in terms of volume. You can write the best content in the world, but if you don't target the right keywords that actually get searched, then it doesn't matter. So it's really important that you put these into buckets, that you can organize your content in a way that flows, that keeps the user engaged in the best manner, but also that ensures that each of the queries that you target have search volume. So when we looked at Dolman Law Group and what they were going to try to achieve to rank nationwide for the car accident lawyer phrase, we looked at all their competitors, all the other law firms across the nation, and what we noticed was most of those were written by the founder or the CEO of the law firm. So when I approached Matt that we were going to think differently about this project, attorney Matt Dolman, I said, hey, we need to do something different. We need to incorporate multiple experts, because everything was structured the same way for the competition, so we needed to be different. And that's where we come up with our next step in selecting a content framework. Step 2 is all about creation. We've already done the analysis to determine what our competitors are doing, and what we identified was everyone was writing in the first person. They were writing from the perspective of one expert, one opinion. So we had to select a framework that incorporated multiple experts. And we have many types of frameworks, content frameworks at our agency. It's not just the long form practice area. We have ultimate guides, we have list posts, we use carousels, we use infographics, illustrations. There's all different methods of creating content to achieve a result and a ranking. And ultimately, we decided to choose the Legal Roundup. The Legal Roundup essentially is where you create a survey where a group of attorneys or experts will answer one topic. And the topic that we chose was, when do you need to hire a car accident lawyer? So we wanted to have multiple attorneys answer that to get different perspectives from experts, and that's where we started. Once we selected the Legal Roundup, the next step was, who are we gonna ask to contribute to this content? Because we wanna make sure that we have the best of the best. And this is where it took kind of a joint effort between Matt Dolman and myself and my team, where he has his own peers, where he knows the best of the best around the country, because they receive a lot of leads and they have to refer out of state. So it made sense, the rising tide, the people that he already knew that he was sending referrals to, it would make sense that they would be an expert contributor. So those were the first individuals that we added to our Roundup prospecting list. And then of course, since I only work with personal injury attorneys and my agency's helped hundreds of law firms across the country, we developed a prospecting list that made sense, that covered territory in the major markets that could also contribute to this content as well. When we went to create this survey, the most important thing is making it easy. There are a lot of methods. You could use MailChimp, you could use all these different tools, but ultimately we chose to use the free Google Forms. It's something that's not used very often, but it's very easy to set up. You can add a name, email field, their website field, and you can collect all the answers from one location. And it's very common for attorneys to use the Google Suite as their main tool, so they're very comfortable utilizing that software. When we were looking at what question we wanted the attorneys to answer, we wanted to make sure that it was very specific. We wanted a long tail phrase that it would incorporate car accident lawyer almost every time. So When do I need to hire a car accident lawyer? We knew that the responses would typically contain that phrase or variations and synonyms of that statement. One of the most important components of a legal roundup strategy in our attempt to rank nationwide for car accident lawyer for Dolman Law Group is the email copy. Because we can have the best prospecting list, but if they don't open or respond to the email, we're not gonna get any responses. So it's very important to use all the psychological triggers, all the methods of influence in your copywriting. A great book that I recommend is Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, that talks about all the different types of psychology that you can incorporate into your email copy to get a response. So we used several variations of this. We use scarcity, so we were only gonna ask a certain amount of attorneys. We used time constraint. They had to answer the email by a certain deadline. We used authority, referring to them as an exclusive group of expert attorneys. We used a take back that said, hey, it's okay if you don't wanna contribute to this, no problem. We also answered the what's in it for Matt question. Everyone, when they get a solicitation or they get an email, they always think, what's in it for the person that is asking? So we just answered that in advance to let them know why we were doing this. You can see how much planning goes into something like this before we do any execution. I really want to make that clear that the strategy is the most important component. If you just go and you find your keyword and you try to write a long form piece of content, it's never going to succeed to the same level that something like this does. Step 3 of ranking for car accident lawyer nationwide for Dolman Law Group begins with is all about execution. So we've done the competitive analysis, we've done the creation of our prospecting list, our email copy, and we understand we've selected the content framework that we want to use. The next is all about executing. So we chose to manually submit our email outreach. There are many tools that you can use to do this, but what we find is every single situation needs to have a certain level of customization in the email copy. So yes, we had a base template that we use, but my relationships and Matt's relationships are different, and there's an extra level of trust that is created when you can implement something personal to that respective individual. So we sent customized one-to-one emails, and then we made it very clear with a great subject line that they needed to answer, they needed to take action, and we sent all of those out within a 2-day period. Anyone that didn't respond within a day or two, we sent a follow-up. Just to bump it to the top of their email inbox and to get their attention. In some cases, we even called those individuals or texted them if we had a direct connection to them and that was their preferred method of communication. Some attorneys don't live in their inbox. Some of them prefer to get a phone call, or some of them prefer to get a text because everyone's busy, and possibly some of these larger 8- and 9-figure law firm owners, they have assistants that are filtering out their emails, so it's important to get directly to them. Once we got a very high percentage of responses, when you do when you incorporate psychology into your email copywriting from Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, when you do this high level of customization and hit them with multiple forms of communication, you're gonna get a high response rate. We typically get 60 to 70% of responses from our emails. That's very rare when you're sending emails that are requesting an action, particularly a survey. Can you imagine if you sent out a survey and got 60 to 70 responses from every survey you sent out? It's pretty rare, especially when they're working at other firms. Once we collected all of these answers into Google Forms, it's not the best method of formatting. It's just text heavy. It doesn't really incorporate anything that has readability. It could be all jammed into one paragraph. So there's a certain level of effort that's required when you go to optimize the page. So the first thing is you want to break the larger paragraphs up. You want to make sure that there's subheaders for each city, each state, so that the individual that is researching or reading the article, let's say they're a Texas attorney, they can jump to the Texas attorney spot. So you wanted to make that really clear that each expert was differentiated. It just wasn't a lot of attorneys that were answering questions, that each of them had their specific expertise. We also wanted to incorporate an image of that attorney. It makes them more real. It makes them an actual person that they could see. And we can incorporate alt text and other SEO components to that image to help reinforce the overall keyword pool that we're trying to rank for. And let me explain why that's important. If you just write an article, there are some phrases that are very difficult to incorporate into your copy. This doesn't naturally flow. Or maybe you're trying to get a synonym into the page. The alt text of an image, if you can make it work, it is an additional location to incorporate keywords. Now, you don't want to overdo it, but it gives you this additional opportunity that's not in the context of a paragraph or story, but it's in the actual code of the image. It's just an extra level of optimization there. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is add the URL back to the respective bio page, because that reinforces their expertise and experience, not the home page. It needs to go to that respective page you're referring to. And then the last thing that we did to give it this extra level of trust is we added the years of experience, the number of years that they've been in practice, so that if a consumer was reading this, they could see, oh, this individual's been practicing personal injury law for 17 years. It would be a much better, they would trust that answer substantially more than if the attorney had only been practicing for 1 or 2 years. So far we've done a competitive analysis. We looked at all of our competitors' content, how it was organized. We put our keyword pool together. Then we went to create. So we created our email copywriting, our prospecting list, our Google Forms, our survey. And then we went to execute. So we actually sent the email copy out. Well, all of that helps you get the content written, but ultimately, even if you have a great piece of content, you have to tell consumers that it's out there. You have to make it available. So the next step, and probably the most important step, is the promotion of the piece. And here's where there's a few additional tactics that you can use. So the first one is, after we launched the post and it was formatted well with each individual's picture, we thanked the contributors. And how we thank them is we let them know that they got a do follow link back to their site, so it's helping their SEO efforts. And we gave them links to promote it on social media to give it additional extended social reach. There are some debates by other SEO specialists whether or not social links help rank a page, but what I can tell you is it's prominence. You're out there, you're on other individuals' pages, you're everywhere. And I think it helps the page get crawled faster, even though typically social links are no follow and don't actually pass link equity. But if it extends it to a larger audience, you have the greater opportunity to receive natural, organic inbound links. That's most important, is the thank. Next, we made sure that that page was very, very accessible on Dolman Law Group's website. So we didn't simply just add it to a blog and leave it there, particularly on a site like Dolman Law Group's that has 3,000, 5,000 pages, thousands of pages. So we wanted to give a lot of accessibility to it so that Google understood it was an important page that we cared about. And there are a few manners of doing that. The first method is you want to add it to your menu. So the menu on a website, typically those links are on every page of the website. So that's extreme access. That's where you start with number one. All that link equity that comes in from the web will go to that page. The second step is to incorporate it on related sidebars. So if we had another car accident page, we wanted to make sure that it was relevant, it was located on those pages, because an individual reading maybe a shorter blog topic maybe would want to transition over to our main article. It would make sense, it's naturally justified. And then the third component of optimizing your site is you want to make sure that you contextually link in the body of the content on other related articles. Here's the thing. Sire Shepherd did a study at Moz and found that links in the body carry the most weight. I think that Google tries to devalues links in the menu, in the footer, and the sidebar just because they're afraid of manipulation. So when it's in the actual body, it carries more contextual authority. So we made sure that third component of optimization of the site was there was contextual links in the body, a link to our main page. So ultimately, all those on-site optimizations are just giving a lot of authority, a lot of attention, driving a lot of consumers to our page in regards to navigation and SEO link authority that can travel to the page. And the last that I wanted to circle back around to was from our contributors. If we found an attorney that contributed to the survey was more than willing to help it promote it, if they were sharing it on social and doing all these things, and if they made any inclination of, hey, what can I do as a way of thanking you? If they wanted to reciprocate, okay? So if you've heard Gary Vaynerchuk and he says the jab, 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 right hook. So all we're doing is we're give. We gave the link, we're making them an author. If they showed any inclination of wanting to reciprocate, we could then go find an article that was related, maybe deep on their blog, and say, hey, you've got this blog from 2016 that talks about car accidents. Could we link to our post? And a lot of times those individuals would say yes, because we've already given them so much and they're on the page. That's the key thing. If you tried to do editorial outreach and just guest post on another law firm's site, they'd tell you to go take a hike, right? Why would I let you post on my site? However, if that individual is on the page that they're linking to, then they'd probably have no problem. To summarize the 4 steps that we took to rank Dolman Law Group's car accident lawyer page nationwide for car accident lawyer for over 1,000 phrases, 1,000. When you compare, that's another key component. When you compare SEO versus PPC, this one page ranks for over 1,000 phrases. Step 1 was to analyze. Step 2 was to create. Step 3 was to do the execution. And step 4, the promotion. So what did this mean for Matt Dolman and Dolman Law Group? A tremendous amount of leads for those bottom of the funnel, high intent car accident lawyer searches. Not only do they rank in Florida and their local market, they now rank nationwide and have the opportunity to build and nurture out-of-state relationships through referrals.
The job that Rankings.io have done for me, if you have a problem with the site, any issues that need to be looked at, they've just been a phenomenal team. I'm happy to talk to anybody about what we've done.
If you want to get results like this, all you got to do is go to our website, go to Rankings.io, hit that contact button. It starts with a free consultation, a free exploratory call. We're going to dive right in, see what your goals are, and discuss the possibilities with you as well.